All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? I got some feedback of things regarding strippers and things in that nature because I did a video on some locations that I grew up around regarding strippers, and I also wrote about my book Wingman, and my program has a lot of men. They're interested in dating strippers or porn stars and all these things. So I get questioned about that a lot still, even from younger guys, which is kind of funny. But I could kind of go back to my history of being around, I guess, those type of women and that lifestyle. So what I remember the furthest, so my father owned a club and then a bar lounge, and then he converted it when I was younger into a go-go club. And I wasn't allowed, obviously, in the bar for the most part, unless it was during the day. My mom or dad would walk me in and whatever. But we rented a house right next to the bar lounge, and I would sometimes sneak over if the babysitter would fall asleep. And I'd go through you go down the stairs, and then there was a basement to the bar, and then a couple floors. Then he built a rooftop style. But I would run over there and just I'd go up one flight downstairs, actually get to the basement. Then I'd go up another, and then you could kind of peep through a peephole, or like an area where you can kind of see what was going on. And I'm trying to remember this. I'm 2, 3, 4 years old at this point. 3 years old, maybe 4. I can't remember. But I remember there were women my father had, like, not cages built up, but like they were built in the wall, and then girls would dance too. I think it was full nudity. And that was the first time I really saw naked women. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe this. So anyways, I never even told my parents that. I think I talk about that in my Mastering Self-Confidence program, my audio clips. So let's fast forward a little bit. Then my father started taking me to the Playboy Club in Lake Geneva. So my parents got divorced. My mother became basically very religious. My father, very flamboyant. As he was, and he was almost like famous in his own right. He owned a nightclub, and he just knew a lot of people in the bar and nightclub industry, from Chicago to Wisconsin to Indiana, all these different things. And he would take me with him, which was pretty amazing. So we would sometimes, I only went snow skiing a couple times in Lake Geneva, and I think it was a Playboy Club, but I'd also be able to go with him to shows. And my father was the type of guy who only liked R-rated movies. He had no problem talking about sex. Being in his bar, he only really hired beautiful women. He was that type of guy. And because he was like a very well-known hairstylist at one time. He was like the first American classified like international hairstylist in Chicago. But yeah, we'd go to and I remember, I don't know how to this day, we'd go to the shows. And the shows back then were very similar to kind of like Vegas shows. They wouldn't be all topless, like the whole show wouldn't be topless or anything like that, but they would do, sexual things. And I think even sometimes tits would fly out. It'd be part of a bit, a girl running out, and I'd be eating dinner with my father, and all of a sudden these women, beautiful women at that, were doing shows. Our waitresses had the little things with their ass. And then, I don't know how this happened. It's a funny story, but I got at about 11 years old in the mail. I got it was for me. My mother didn't realize it. I got a Playboy Club card to be a member. I don't know how my father pulled it off. It wasn't for him because it said Rich CELENZA Jr. on it specifically. But my mother didn't catch that. She just saw the letter from Playboy. She opened it. She's like, what is this? Your father goes to the Playboy Club? She didn't even know what was going on. I never would tell her. Who would? At that age, because I was just having too much fun. And she's like, this filthy slop. So she threw it in the garbage. I think she wanted to yell at him or something. And this is after they were divorced a while. I went there and grabbed it. I had this Playboy card forever. It was black with the white logo in the center. It was awesome. So being around naked or beautiful women all the time was kind of becoming very natural, especially being in the clubs with my father. So I think, and I was just talking to my partner regarding my Mastering Self-Confidence program, and I've been analyzing this a lot. How I think a lot of men's confidence kind of is how they're groomed, I think, to a certain degree when they're younger, like how they're kind of programmed. So my mother gave me actually a lot of confidence. I think she wanted me to become a priest or a pastor because she was always taking me to church or wanted me to go to camps. Everything was religion driven. Bible studies, CCD. She worked for the Catholic Archdiocese, so it was very religious driven. And my dad was building me confidence to run a nightclub and really not be afraid of any type circumstance that I found myself in, right? And he never even really taught me how to bartend, and I goof around regarding this all the time, and I talk to people because they knew I was not only in the bar business with my father till about 14, then I went into the vending business, helped my father collecting money all over, in bars all over Central Florida. I don't know how to serve drinks. I don't know how to cook anything, even though my father had a nightclub. We had our steakhouse. He had all these things. I think he just kind of programmed me to groom me to kind of run things, not get involved with all the other things. Now, he could bartend. He doesn't cook, but he could do a lot more than I could. Let's put it that way. And my mother could do it all too. Amazing cook. She could bartend amazingly. She's done it all. So as far as the restaurant, nightclub, that's what they first originally owned. So when I remember so I came to Florida, I used to spend the summers in Florida, and my dad started to be in the vending business, and his buddies would come down for conventions, and not a lot of people know this, especially in the 80s, but now most people know this, Orlando, Vegas, but it's a huge convention town. It's massive. The Orange County Convention Center, I think that's what it is. Well, it's a convention center on I-Drive. It's massive. They keep expanding it. It's one of the biggest in the country right now, and a lot of guys used to come here to spend a lot of money, and they'd go to strip clubs. Tons of them. Back then, I'm talking the 80s, it's Orange Blossom Trail, still pretty kind of famous for strip clubs, and you had Castleberry, that had strip clubs as well, amongst other areas, but those were kind of the main hubs. But there were some other ones. They're still on 436. There were pockets of them kind of being everywhere, and then eventually, I think as time went on, Tampa became very popular, because they also have like the Dollhouse, and they have like Mons Venus, and they really went off the chart with it. But this is in the glory days of the 80s, where Club Juana, which I think at one time was the only full nudity strip club, I think, in the country at that time, and I'm not kidding from what I understood. But Dollhouse, the original Dollhouse, Pure Platinum, the original, I think, Pure Platinum, Baby Dolls, Flashdance, the movie's based off the movie Flashdance, pretty sure. And we used to collect money in all of them. We had equipment in all of them. But before my father even had equipment, his friends came down to do a convention, and then we went to Club Juana, where everybody would want to go. But I was only 15. My father thinks I was younger, but I think I was 15. To make a long story short, he had some wealthy buddies that owned the electronic dart games. They created it, so it was a big thing. Electronic darts was just getting popular. My father knew all these guys being in with his own nightclub. They had equipment and things, so we all went out, and they thought I'd be too young, and they're like, no, we'll get him in. And my dad's like, all right, let's give it a shot. He can handle himself. So we went, and I walked right in like gangbusters. I got in, and I'm 15, sitting there with all women that were completely nude, table dancing. They didn't do lap dance then. I kind of get into that later, where I think lap dance came from, but my father always talks about this to this day, where all his buddies kept trying to get all these women to do all crazy shit to me, to try to get me, or like get me not... to make me feel uncomfortable, and my father kept laughing at him because he knew what I kind of grew up in, and their friends are like, what's going on with him? They were kind of trying to rattle me, bringing all these girls around, doing all this crazy shit, and I could care less. They were even offering me, like, take the garter off with your teeth. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, get out of here with that stupid shit, and whatever. And, like, nothing was fazing me. I was just like a regular Joe, just sitting there, and I guess maybe a lot of younger kids would maybe act differently. I don't know. I just didn't care. Of course, I was like, wow, there's a lot of beautiful women here, but I didn't overreact. I didn't act goofy. I was even drinking casually in there. So then we ended up going in Club Juana to bring equipment. So what happened then, in turn, I started to go with my father, even at a young age. I had to get a fake ID at a very young age. I was just collecting money in strip clubs, and I became friends with a lot of the owners, who were super cool. And then in turn, we would start hanging out there. Me and my friends would drink or whatever. And then even at Flashdancer, we built in the back, they had like a whole section. So at the front of Flashdancer, so picture a runway where the girls would dance and walk. And then you had different pockets where they would dance as well, and where people would sit. But in the back was a private area where we had a bunch of equipment. We had billiard tables, tabletops, all these different things. So you could party back there, private parties. It got nuts back there all the time. They would do bachelor parties or any type of party you wanted to go, convention parties. It was like a private spot. And all these, and like the original Dollhouse. So, and then Pure Platinum opened. Michael J. Peters, who I knew who started that whole thing, he started getting in some legal issues. But I knew all the managers. I'd actually get big dudes from my gym jobs there. But growing up in that environment, which I find quite interesting, is it's when something becomes normal, right? And I don't know if it should or shouldn't be normal. But I remember even going in Club One, and me and my dad would or even me by myself, we'd have to service the machine or collect money. And I would literally be walking around and I'd be talking to girls that were just absolutely full naked. And they're just talking. And I remember one time I even told a girl, like, she was on her period and her string was hanging out. And I said, hey, whatever her name was, I knew her, whatever. Hey, your string's hanging out. She's like, oh my God, thanks, Rich. I was like, but I look back at that now and go, what the hell kind of life was I leading? And the truth is, I also knew we'd hang and party with them at certain times, I ended up then in a relationship with my ex-wife, who was wonderful. She was, but just when I was in my younger years, when she was in college, I found myself hanging out with a lot of these girls. We'd go to the beach or we'd hang out and party in groups. And then what was quite interesting is right after I got married, one of the strip clubs, my friend one of my close friends' brothers was a bouncer at, and we put equipment in there. And to make a long story short, some foreign dude, I forgot his name. This goes way back. He got in some legal trouble, so he had to literally flee the country, and he was just looking for cash at the moment to buy his joint out. And I was going to buy it, and it was a great deal. And also, we had all the equipment in there, so we'd not only, we'd buy the bar, we'd make money on the bar. We'd also collect 100% of the equipment, which wasn't bad either. They were doing really well. And this one girl, I used to call her Barbara Streisand. She ran the joint. She looked like Barbara Streisand. So I went back to my ex-wife, and we just got married. And I said, hey, I got a great deal here on a strip club. It makes this amount of money. We just got to buy it cash outright. That's the only thing he's willing to offer to me at first. And she started screaming, are you nuts? We just got married. You're going to own a strip club. And I had to sit back and go, yeah, am I nuts? Am I nuts? What am I doing here? But now that I look back at it, that was a really blown deal because that was a cash cow. But it's kind of interesting that even though I just got married, I was still talking about these things. I was still going in and out of these places constantly. Even though I was married, I just wasn't necessarily now attracted to those women because when you're younger, it's amazing to be around a lot of strippers. But truthfully, I can't say almost all the strippers, and we used to know a lot of them, almost all of them ended up falling on hard times unless they scored somebody with a little money. Or unless they were a student, and a lot of people don't realize this, a lot of girls, especially in the 80s and 90s, I don't know about now, they were stripping in Orlando that went to the university. So they'd go to the University of Florida, they went to Florida State, some Tampa even, so on the weekends or even during the week, sometimes they'd come in and out, make money, and then leave, you know what I mean? So there was a lot of times people think strippers are all stupid or they're this or that. They're not necessarily all that, like that at all. I also know a lot of celebrities actually going in and out of strip clubs. Some I knew, some I didn't. Some pro basketball players. Actually, a lot of rock star dudes. I don't want to start naming their names. I even got in an altercation with an Oscar-winning actor at one of them that I almost gave a beating to, actually. So what was I going to get into regarding this? Oh yeah, regarding strippers again. Most strippers I knew, I don't know what it was. I can't say it was always daddy issues, but a lot wanted money, obviously, right? I think the key component was money. And most of them that I knew, that I even hung out with, whatever you want to say, fooled around with, or whatever, a lot of them started off as waitresses, and they got converted into stripping, a lot of them. At least a lot of the hottest ones. A lot of them didn't just all of a sudden go from the street or just having normal jobs and then walk in and go, yeah, I'm going to be topless now, right? They almost conformed into it. A lot of them liked to party as well, and most I knew liked drugs. That's the one thing I despised about that whole thing was they loved drugs. Or most of them ended up getting involved with drugs, and eventually it seemed like most that I knew in time started to lose a lot of respect for men because they knew a lot of men were cheating on their wives or that would come here misbehave or they had girlfriends. And they almost became, the strippers, more competitive with one another, trying to attract each other than they were with men. They were almost turned off by men, which was quite interesting. And being in that lifestyle for those girls, most don't last too long. And if they do last too long, and I do know some that lasted way too long, and they just look haggard. I'd hate to say that about them. The lifestyle just consumes them. Even if they don't get involved with drugs or drinking, the hours, and a lot of them end up doing a lot of things that they don't want to do, which is like bachelor parties or private parties. And the money, after a while, is just too hard to turn down. And you got to realize, too, after making that type of money, it's quick, it's cash, a lot of it. You're dancing, you could get $10 up to $25 a dance. I mean, I'm not going to get into all the particulars. Well, now let's go. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to tell you, which I found quite interesting, is when I was younger, is there was a place called House of Babes. I'll name them. And House of Babes had like all young girls from 18 and up. And what was interesting, the guys, it was built, I think, really for the Navy guys originally in Orlando, Florida. There was a Navy base years ago. And, when you have alcohol, they regulate you more. But House of Babes, is that what I was? Yeah, not circus, right? Yeah, House of Babes. They just serve soda and water, right? So pop and soda, that was it, and juices, I should say. So the police or anybody, nobody regulated this place. And I remember as time went on, that's where I first saw. Now, I'm not saying I was in every strip club in the country by any means, but that's where I started to see table dancing, and then lap dancing evolve, because a lot of times you weren't supposed to touch the women. Some had to wear pasties. There's all these different rules depending on what region of the city you're in. But in this case, because there was no alcohol involved, it was a free-for-all in this place. And that's where I first started to see that, which I found quite interesting. Because let's face it, when you're lap dancing or when you're doing those type of things, which now I think almost most places do it, and I don't really go to any strip clubs, but I was actually at one not long ago in Tennessee that I found it was full nudity. It was funny because when I was dressed up and I walked around there, everybody there thought I worked there. That was kind of interesting. But I have nothing against people that go to strip clubs. I think they're funny and they're fun. And I think people over-exaggerate. I think if you're married and you're so insecure that you can't, if your husband goes with a group of buddies or they end up just whatever, and vice versa, if your wife or your girlfriend goes to a show, like a Magic Mike show, hypothetically, male review, I talk about that in my program, like, lighten up, dude. If you're worried that she's going to do something, then what are you even doing with her in the first place? And most men aren't doing shit at strip clubs. They're usually, they get taken advantage of financially, if anything. But most strippers, I can assure you, for the most part, aren't. You're a mark to your man. Or if you are a man, you're a mark. All you are is a number to them. They want to get a certain amount of money off of you. They want you to spend a certain amount of money because that's how they make money. That's how they keep their job. I don't care what they tell you. I don't care what they tell you their name is. I don't care how hot or how much wealth you're showing them and all this shit. You have to build some type of credibility with them. Now, I'm not saying sometimes guys go in there and pick up randoms and you can score a stripper here and there depending on the quality of the stripper. I hate to say that. Certain strip clubs you can, especially if you know the doormen, you know the bouncers, or you know the girls, and depending on how financially stressed they are, you can't pull them. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen, especially in a lot of areas or towns that women don't make a lot of money, right? And I know that just recently happened to somebody I know out by the Panhandle. They pulled, somebody, you hear certain stories about somebody pulling a few, and you're laughing your ass off. And I said, "Oh, was it this area?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, I know. They're kind of known for that." But then if you go into places like hypothetically New York, or you go to places like South Florida or other places, that's not an easy thing because they make a lot of money doing what they're doing. A lot of them are also may or may not be in relationships. And they don't trust a lot of men to just randomly go home with them. And they, some are just professionals, some are even escort. There's all these different things involved with that industry, which is whack in itself. And I was just actually telling my girlfriend, because we had to drive through an area that I used to go to and collect money. I was related to somebody who was dating the owner. I was related through marriage. They were dating the owner of a strip club, but it was for plus size women, and a lot of pregnant women were in there, which is absolutely whack to me. I was like, Jesus Christ. I'd go in there, and most of these women I felt so horrible were just broke or pregnant or just obese. And not that they were obese, I don't care about that. But it was a very busy place in Florida. It was kind of shocking, in the middle of nowhere. You had to really go find it. And that was quite interesting as well. I have a whole section in my book regarding this subject, and I also in my program, Mastering Self-Confidence, I want to try to help men find the woman or women of their dreams, even if they've been through a bad divorce or breakup. I have a whole section on this because the truth is a lot of dudes, I get it, want to date these type of women, especially if they're younger. And yeah, and it's something I think what a lot of people when they're teaching programs or they're teaching about relationships or they're trying to help men, they kind of neglect a lot of things and they try to like glaze over it like it doesn't exist or they're above it, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. That goes for women in porn as well. A lot of men are attracted to those type of women. Would I recommend you sticking with those type of women? I can't say because I don't know your lifestyle. But for me to sit here and be a snob and say that every stripper is this way, or if you go with a stripper, this is going to happen, is absolutely ridiculous. Because I knew a lot of strippers, and a lot of them were actually nice people as well. A lot of them, it takes a lot of money sometimes to keep up with what they do. You got to realize from, I know it's a joke, but perfume, getting boob jobs, their clothing, staying in shape, teeth, hair, and it becomes more and more competitive. Let's face it, it is competitive. And if those are the type of women you're attracted to, own up to it. The only thing I would say to you is don't get your identities, like or your core values, I think is what happens with a lot of men, because a lot of men think they're one way. So a lot of men think they want this and they end up with that, and it's horrible for them. If you're a party dude and you know how to handle yourself, if you like nightclubs and you like fast women or you like that lifestyle and you're comfortable in it and you can hold your own in it, no, more power to you. But I think most guys get way over their head. They're almost caught between being a Christian or they're caught between just being an average guy, and then they start getting themselves caught up in this lifestyle with a woman or a girl that's a stripper, and a lot of times they get played. And then that goes for a lot of middle-aged men too. A lot of women I see are strippers or escorts or whatever. They wrap themselves into these men and financially drain them. You just got to be prepared to understand how to hold your own. And life's a crapshoot regardless. But I would say one thing regarding strippers or that environment, strip clubs, gentlemen's clubs, is, you really got to understand who you are and be very secure with who you are. And that is a lifestyle most people can't handle. And I know you see it in the movies, you think it's exciting. From a financial standpoint, just in general, in getting wrapped up. I've seen so many people lose a lot getting wrapped up with those type of women or in that lifestyle, or start becoming to have addictions on many different levels, not just alcohol, drugs. It could become sex, and it really does destroy a lot of people's lives. So you definitely don't want that to happen. So if you want to know more about this crazy shit, like I said, I got my program out there, but I just thought I would do a podcast on it because people have been asking me questions about that again. And I think I did do a podcast, something similar to a while ago. I think I did it in a mall. It just came to me. I was in Tampa, and I think I did something like this. I went into different things regarding it. But, yeah, protect yourself. That's number one, all right? And I don't even mean with a condom. I mean overall in general, right? And it's very interesting to me that, the last place I would ever want my daughters to be is in that lifestyle. And what's funny is that I grew up in that lifestyle. And, I once heard a crazy saying by somebody that said, nobody wants their daughters to grow up to be prostitutes or strippers or all that, but a lot of them are going to end up being that. And I was just like, wow, that kind of sucks, really, right? But it's a big business. And a lot of them now, I think, is much different than when I was younger. When I was younger, they basically did strip clubs, and then porn wasn't as big, where now they kind of dip in and out of clubs, going into the porn industry and kind of coming out of it. And that's another thing that if you start getting involved in that lifestyle, you got to realize that it's a lot more than just girls. Not all of them, but a lot of them may be doing things like that. And obviously escorting or, all that's blended. And if you have no problem with your girlfriend being that or dating somebody like that, hey, that's your thing. But don't be fooled. Don't be a fool either, all right? And a lot of times what you're really seeing isn't what they are, right? So just pay attention to that. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm going to be, what else do I got out there, actually? I got a YouTube channel, Rich CELENZA. We got this, obviously, this podcast. I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm always going to try to give you an honest approach on my past, what I've gone through, what I'm still going through. And I don't even edit my podcast. I just kind of want it to fly out. I don't want to go back. And I know a lot of times people are like, Rich, I can't believe you said this or that, or why would you expose yourself this way or that way? And it's not to make me look good or make me look bad. I could really care less. It's just what I went through, and I really want to help people. And I know a lot of us, especially men, I should say, we have these desires, and we can't bullshit around and pretend they don't exist. But at the same time, while we want to maybe fulfill these desires, we have to protect ourselves, because a lot of times those desires can end up turning out very bad, because what you think it's going to be isn't, or the way it's going to turn out isn't. And no one's going to protect you but you. And again, around certain people, they're going to want from you. They're going to end up taking a lot more than what you have to offer sometimes. And you've got to be very prepared for that. And I was very fortunate. I was in a position when I call it a spotlight position. And what a spotlight position is, I was in a position where more people wanted something from me than I wanted from them to a certain degree. So I collected money all over, and my father had money and things, and we'd lend money hypothetically to bar owners or gentlemen or whoever needed money in cash, and then they would pay us back with the equipment or what money we made, or if they needed certain things, we'd get it for them, right? Or we knew so many people and so many different things. If they needed employees, or like I just told you, I knew bouncers. I even knew other girls that would leave one strip club because they were looking for another job or a bartender. So I was always in a position of helping, which in turn made them want to help me. But if you're just a random dude and you're a nobody, you're not in that position. So you've got to, if you want to start going out with these women, or that, you have to turn the tide, I call it, and start working from the outside in, I call it, where you start becoming friends with, one is the bouncers or the doormen, where they build a trust with you, because a lot of times those are the guys that are going to be running the show and protect the women, especially if there's after hours party. A lot of them party together, different house parties. They go out to clubs together, they drink together. And also the management there and the bartenders, you become friends with them and you build up a trust. You don't just randomly go in there and start hitting on strippers or on these women and look like every other asshole out there, or asking them on dates, which I'm not saying you can't do that. But you're going to most likely get played. What you want to do is become in a position where they want to know more about you and who you are as a person, and treating them as a person. You're not a fan. You're not somebody who goes there every day chasing them like a stalker or a fucking weirdo. That's the opposite of what you want. If you are interested in these type of girls, you go periodically and you build friendships with them. And that's what my main program is about, just in general. But in case you are thinking about going that, I will tell you that much. If you want to be around those type of women, you want them to desire you, not because they are already being continuously desired. And believe me, you being unique and not even desiring them will blow them away. Just in general, they'll want to know why you're there. They're going to already think you're a pervert, because most strip clubs, most women that work at these places know most guys coming in are perverts, because they are. It's not a bad thing. It's just who they are. But you also understand that a lot of dudes just go in there and have a drink or two, like to look at, if you're honest, to say, yeah, I like to look at pretty naked women once in a while. Too bad. Go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? And then you leave and you live your life, and they see that you can kind of hold your own, and you're maybe a little different. And again, if you're willing to sometimes have things to offer, so everybody needs something, I talk about it, including a stripper. It doesn't always have to be money, but maybe she needs help with her credit. I don't care if she needs help with her car, she wants to buy a condo, a mortgage, whatever the hell she needs, you can help her. And just something to think about if those are the type of women you're interested in. All right? Just thought I'd throw that in there. All right, don't let anybody make you feel bad that you do certain things in your life like this. Like if you like to go to strip clubs once in a while, I wouldn't make it a habit. But you can do whatever you want to do. Financially, I think you're pissing a lot of money away, even if you have a ton of money. Do whatever you want to do. I just think it looks a little weird. But again, I've known guys that hang in them every day. I know guys that would go once a week. I know guys that would only go once every couple of years. My father has a theory. Why go to the candy store if you can't buy the candy, like as a joke, or if you can't get the candy? Either way, I get that as well. But if you go consistently and you build up a good relationship with the management or even the ownership or whatever, and you're cool, it is what it is. Just learn it's about having fun. That's really what life's about. So if that's what toots your horn, God bless you. All right? All right. Take care, and if you're traveling, safe travels.